Hi, my name is Carolyn Nilsen, and I am an FTT major here at Notre Dame. So this semester I've been taking a Basics of Film and Television course, and my final project has consisted of me picking one of my favorite movies and being able to analyze the scene and seeing how that scene contributes to the overall theme within a particular film. So me being a film lover, I picked one of my favorite movies, The Notebook. And so I was kind of looking into The Notebook and being like, I love this movie so much, so I watched the whole movie in order to analyze the scene. And I was kind of looking at the overall structure within The Notebook's film, like within The Notebook and the genre of romance films in general. And so I ultimately came to this idea of what exactly consists in a romance film. And looking at the overall genre of romance films, you can see that they're very predictable. We all kind of know the couple's going to meet up, they're going to date for a little bit, fall in love, then they'll break up, and then eventually get back together, and there will be this happily ever after. And so looking at this overall structure of romance films, there's a direct correlation to Shakespeare and his five-act structure within plays. And so throughout the five-act structure within plays is the exposition, which is the introduction of the setting and characters, the rise in action, which consists of the inciting incident, which is like the main problem or conflict within the film, then the climax, which is the character's main struggle within the film, and usually a large realization happens during this part of the film, and then the falling action, which in romance films is usually when the couple gets back together, and then the resolution is kind of the tying of loose ends of the film, and that happily ever after is within that part of the film. And so within my research paper, I used the last song as an example to kind of show that five-act structure within the film. So using the last song, in the exposition, the couple meets up in North Carolina. They begin to date and fall in love within the rise in action. In the climax, there's a big fire, and one of the main characters' dad actually passes away. And so the falling action consists of the funeral and the couple getting back together. And then finally, the resolution consists of the couple choosing colleges near each other, and then there is that happily ever after within the film. So I kind of wanted to look at the overall general stats and geographic of people that go and see these movies. Now this chart is a little small, but if you can look, romantic comedies and romance films, over 60% of women under the age of 35 go and see these romance films and romantic comedies, whereas less than 20% of men go and see these romantic comedies and romance films. And so I wanted to look at what exactly do these stats really mean? Why are there so many women going to see these films, and what are they so compelled by because there is such predictable structure within these films? Now looking at this, women want their lives to resemble the lives of these characters. There is a sort of catharsis that is created within these films. And catharsis is an emotional response that is created. And that is directly because the audience has to fall in love with the characters, as well as see this sort of happily ever after that occurs within the film, in order to become satisfied. And so we see that women want their lives to resemble these films because of this happily ever after. And so I looked at the film La La Land as a counterexample to my paper to see if that would further prove anything. So if many of you are not aware, La La Land has been released this past year, and it kind of follows that Shakespearean structure where the couple meets, they fall in love, they break up during a period of time, and they get back together. But rather than there being a happily ever after, the writers actually changed the script and allowed the characters to pick their careers over each other in the end. And this was a pretty controversial ending for La La Land, and it actually caused a lot of public opinion about it. Because rather than them having that happily ever after, they actually chose their careers over each other. And so I wanted to ask myself, what exactly does that say about the structure of these films? Clearly people did not like this film as much because there wasn't this happily ever after. And so essentially, I came to the conclusion that this formula is very important. Looking at the movie finances within many of these films, the gross box office sales of these 4 films are pretty high. And looking at these 4 films, there are one thing in common with Pretty Woman, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and The Proposal. They all end with a happily ever after, and they all do significantly better than La La Land. In the case of Pretty Woman, it was made in 1990, and inflation wasn't used in order to calculate the gross box office sales, so it really did make more than $175 million. And so, when looking at these 4 films, it is obvious that the formula is very much directly correlated to the success of a romance or romantic comedy film. So ultimately, I came to the conclusion that it all boils down to this idea of control. Women want a guarantee in their life that they cannot be guaranteed in reality. Looking at these films, they come to these movies in order to see the guy get the girl in the end, and live with that and leave with that satisfaction and comfort, knowing that the main characters got together and had that happily ever after. Our lives are so unpredictable, and we don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but going to these movies gives them that comfort and knowledge that it's all going to work out in the end. And this exactly explains why so many people check the weather 10 days in advance or read the last page of a novel, because they essentially are just trying to get this idea of control. Thank you.